You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Welcome back to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here on a Friday, another day, another time with our special guest. Today, it's going to be all about writing a resume because, we all need one. And, when your career is growing and you're growing along with your career, you kind of need an expert to kind of be an extra set of eyes. So first and foremost, we have a special guest I want to introduce you all to, and that's Amy Adler. She is an award-winning resume writer, career strategist, and podcast host who has spent over 16 years helping senior executives and leaders position themselves for growth. So when you think about process and progress, she is not shy on those two things. From medical publishing to launching the Job Search podcast and writing courageous career change, Amy has become a trusted voice for professionals navigating change, transition, and bigger opportunities. So without further ado, I want to welcome Amy to the show and say, how you doing? Hello.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to be here.
Appreciate your time being on. When you think about, for the first questions, I see in the intro that you help executives and those who are trusted and very high profile leadership. What has been your experience dealing with different personalities? Because everyone has a personality, that's their fingerprint. And how has that helped teach you in your approach with executive leadership?
So, as you say, I've been incredibly lucky to work with such just elite people. It's amazing. And I'm so glad to have these folks as my clients and sometimes as my friends now. And you're right, they come from every walk of life and every kind of personality trait you could imagine. I think over time, I have attracted more of an introvert type. And I think the processes I've built to guide leaders through development of their resume or to help me understand them more so I can do that for them, that attracts somebody who's going to be very introspective. So and that's very, very common for me. But when I'm working with somebody who is a much higher, sort of focally high energy level and is really extroverted, I do my best to mirror their energy level and make sure they feel comfortable in the space that we're creating together, because it's not going to work. It's not going to be a fruitful engagement, a positive relationship, unless they feel like they've come to the right place. So I modulate myself and make sure that they feel like they have the right kind of response from somebody who's going to do, so they believe that somebody's going to do the right thing for them in that context.
You think about being an expert in resume writing, that project has turned to a full-blown career for you. What inspires you to not just teach people how to polish their resume, but to inform them what's possible as far as how they can show themselves on display for others?
So from the very beginning, I wanted to be a book editor back in the day. So being the person who's relatively invisible to the end user of the product was always a very comfortable space for me. So, and even when I did some theater in college, and I was always the one dressed in black behind the curtains or sort of invisible to the audience, and I loved being able to do that. So moving into a space after my sort of work in publishing, that I could use my editorial background and my business experience to help people while still staying relatively hidden in their process, relatively hidden to their end user. I was super happy to do that. So choosing this kind of a way of writing enables me to use the creative flair that I think I've always demonstrated in writing and editing, technical excellence in that, and also the business background. And I get to work again with such incredible people, and enabling them to shine makes me happy. It makes me feel like I have won. I have done the thing that I was put on this earth to do, professionally speaking. And I'm glad to be part of such a huge community of resume writers who put their heart and soul into this type of work every day as well.
Once again, let's refocus rating. We're talking to Amy. When you think about what makes or breaks a person's resume, say someone who's it's not a stranger to a lot of people. A lot of people are stressed when they find themselves having to go for another job or a career change. What's some things that you notice that are like a common thread of what makes or breaks a person's resume?
I think the biggest mistake that any job seeker can make is to commit to paper all the things they want to say about their background and their history before they understand where they want to go. So understanding the direction, the target, the next thing or the next 2 things or 5 things in a person's career shapes the way we talk about what they have done. And making sure that the resume is that balance, that nexus between all the things a person has done and all the things they want to do helps their future audience understand why that person is presenting to them, why that person is standing in front of them, and initiates the conversation with them long before that person is even in that hiring team's presence.
When you think about, not to go down a rabbit hole, but when you think about how talks of AI is now a tool that people use to either rewrite the resume or to polish it, air quotes. Yes. What are some things people should maybe think twice before they jump into using AI?
The biggest issue with AI, which has fabulous applications in all sorts of ways, the biggest thing with AI with respect to resume writing is that AI tends to genericize somebody's background, ignore it altogether, or worse, fabricate data that doesn't exist in the person's history. I've heard more than one story in which somebody who was doing the hiring received a bunch of resumes, a bunch of cover letters that were identical or sounded very similar because the candidates simply threw the job posting into AI and said, write me a resume or write me a cover letter. And so for every one person who does that, there's going to be another person who does that, or a third person. And all 3 would probably get thrown out for being not substantive enough and certainly not indicative of what the highest order professional in that role should be doing.
When you think about how fear plays a role in people holding themselves back from making bold moves, especially like we said earlier, making maybe a career change, how do you coach those particular clients to get through that?
So the biggest fear I see that people experience, and the one they talk about the most, is, are they telling the right story to get them to the next place, the next level? And aren't resumes all about horn blowing and showing up as maybe their inauthentic selves and saying things that don't feel quite right? And that holds people back, I think, because they aren't showcasing what they really have done that is honest and is real. So giving a framework that starts with the notion of leveling with their audience helps these folks kind of get out of their own way and tell the story, or each individual story that they have in their careers, with a beginning, a middle, and an end. So usually we say this in terms of challenge, action, and result. Just tell us what the challenge was. Tell us what you did. Tell us how it turned out. And if we all agree that the result was an improvement, you don't have to embellish that, and you don't have to feel inauthentic in telling that story. And in fact, your audience needs to know that not only do you know how to do what you do, they need to know that you know how to do it well. So give them what you want in perhaps the only circumstance in which it's okay to talk about yourself this way.
Once again, let's refocus ready watching this online, talking to our guest, Amy Adler. My next question is, you have a podcast that people can tune into, the Job Search Podcast. Tell us a little bit, what's some of the hottest topics that you're covering on that show?
So that show is a series of bite-sized topics that people can listen to on their commutes that are sort of single focused episodes, really short. It's just me talking. It's not an interview style. And they tried to get to the heart of issues that people superficially, I think, aren't really thinking about and get beyond the conventional wisdom. I think my favorite episode addresses the issue of how many jobs to apply for. So back in the day, this is probably going on maybe 15 years ago, I had a client who came to me, as so many people are now experiencing the same thing with the advent of tools that enable people to apply to so many jobs so quickly. Anyway, he said he had applied to, I forget the exact number, but maybe 100 jobs or something like that in the prior month. And he was at his wit's end. And I, without thinking, said, you're not right for 100 jobs, and no 100 jobs are right for you. And no shade to this individual who's fabulous at what he did. But that's just too many. So I said, give us 6. Let's look at 6 jobs. And I don't know where I came up with the number 6. It could be 5, it could be 10. But the point is that it's very conserved. And the idea that putting your energy into the thing you want versus all the things you could do makes your argument so much more compelling. So apply for 6 jobs or apply for 10 jobs, but not for 100. And certainly these days, not for 1,000. Any quick perusal of LinkedIn will tell you that there are people out there who are trying every which way, and they're applying for maybe 1,000 jobs in a month or something more than that. And that's painful for me to hear, because it suggests that they're not being very focused, and they're scared. They don't know what to do, and they're hoping that a scattershot approach will work, when I think the opposite is the only thing that can be true.
And that is a very serious topic. Understand that there's so many job seekers out there, and one thing I would like to ask, in addition to that, is what do you believe helps a person stick out? Because say maybe they have to work something temporarily that might be below than what they would want. Would that approach be fruitful based on what you've seen in the past?
So I know somebody who did exactly that. This individual, of course, I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to, reveal private information. But let's say this person had an extremely high level of education and formerly a pretty high level of work, but something happened and it didn't work out. They wound up working in retail because, you know what? They have a family. They have obligations, as we all do. And I can't say whether somebody should stick it out and not take a temporary job, or what we might call a bridge job, at whatever level that might be, because that's not my place to tell somebody that they shouldn't be doing everything they can. So I just hope that they will know that there are resources that can help them, that go beyond the sort of typical advice of just go apply for stuff online. I think we have to advise our clients to apply online because that's the mechanism, but there's so much in the way of interpersonal support and networking support and strategy that we can lend to our clients and lend to these job seekers who are in real tough situations, and help them feel more supported and like they have a fighting chance in a job market that is, by all accounts, extremely tough.
If someone watching this and listen to this show right now and they're like, Amy, I need you like yesterday, what's some resources that they can tap into, maybe as an intro before they fully commit to bring you on board, or you bringing them on board for your services?
Well, certainly there's the book, Courageous Career Change. That's on Amazon. Podcast is out there. There's 70-odd episodes of that, I think, now. But also, they should feel comfortable reaching out to me and going to my LinkedIn profile. Amy L. Adler is my handle there. And signing up for a free consultation with me. There's no obligation. I want to help as many people as I can. And if it works out and we work together, great. If it's just that we're talking in the circumstance of letting me give you a hand, I want to do that too. So take me up on it. My calendar's out there and I'm really glad to do it.
That's really nice of you to do that. That's awesome. That explains why you probably have such a long experience in this field, and to say the least, working with some top officials. Going back from the looking through the lens of CEOs and entrepreneurs, when they're looking for talent to bring on their team, what are some of the pain points that you have learned from them that maybe can help someone who's watching this or listening?
Be kind, I think, is the first thing. And I don't think anybody is intentionally unkind, but people are hurting. People are really hurting, and communication goes a long way. I think the biggest point of strife that people are hearing these days, or people are saying these days that I'm hearing, is that they're not hearing back from recruiters. They're not hearing back from the hiring teams. And even if it's a quick email to say, we know that you're in the pipeline, or that we've decided not to go with you, and this is where we're closing out our relationship right now. I think that goes a long way into helping people feel like they've been heard in an environment in which everything feels like a black hole. So maybe this isn't advice that's new or anything that's going to change in the future, but just be kind, be thoughtful, know that there's another person who is at the other side of the phone or the other side of the conversation who needs your feedback, good, bad, or indifferent.
My next question I want to ask is, for someone who's just working, they're in a job, they're good, but they are considering a career change or maybe applying to another place. What are some positives that they can focus on when preparing their resume for the new opportunity that you feel helps them be ready for the moment?
So certainly preparing is the right thing to do, and looking at all the possibilities of all the things they could do is a good place to start. It's the only thing that they're investing is time. It's free to do the research, and building the relationships that come from that research will give the people an insight into what it's like to work in that environment or a company that does that sort of thing. And in this way, they can start to narrow down the next thing that they want to do without fully committing, and understand that each inquiry or each process of figuring out the next thing or talking to the next person only adds to what they already know, and it might influence them in a way they didn't think before. And at the same time, if they are collecting all of the wins and accomplishments that they have handled over their careers, they can start to shape those stories in the context of what these future audiences are expecting to see. So it doesn't have to be the straight up story within the industry that the person came from. It can be a shaping of that story so it appeals to somebody else too.
And speaking of stories, we hear, or maybe I'm too old, I'm only 36, but I'm just saying, back in my day, we were always told to list out if you do any volunteer work and stuff like that. How much does that really truly stick out on someone's resume if they have experience with working with nonprofits?
I think, well, some people work in nonprofits for their jobs, and that certainly should never be discounted. But the things that people do outside of work add such flavor to who they are and inform their ethics and the way they see the world. And if that is something they want to showcase and they own it and they're ready for somebody to talk to them about that, because it might be just the one thing that sparks a conversation, it's a good idea to include those things. And especially if that person is in some way providing leadership to that group or in contributing to the leadership strategy. There's so much that people can offer that are super interesting to hiring teams because they might have the same ethic as well. Where that can go awry and I don't know if this is just conventional wisdom or if this has actually happened, but it's something we talk about as resume writers. If somebody puts that they're a skydiver, something really risky and wild, but maybe it's this person's passion, that might conflict with a company's risk tolerance. And so one would have to be careful about saying that they are a skydiver if they know that the company is a very conservative organization that wants to play everything safe. And I suppose it could be true in the opposite direction too. All that having been said, in these volatile times, I think everybody is going to have an opinion that's going to cross somebody else's. So being wise to the environment and showing up with your professional self, your kind, engaging, thoughtful self is always going to be more important, and the thing that people look for more than the ways that people are going to differ.
And once again, let's on Refocus Radio, talking to our guest today, Amy Adler. Make sure you go check out her podcast, the Job Shirts podcast. My last question I wanted to talk about is, all right, for the one out there who's just flat out, they're frustrated. Maybe they're like, all right, Shemai, I'm doing everything. I'm checking the boxes. I'm doing what I gotta do. I'm getting up early. I'm going to an interview, but I'll get a call back or whatever the case may be. What words of encouragement will you give to that person who they're determined, they want to work, but maybe they're just not, some reason they're just not getting through right now?
Well, this is the part where my heart hurts all the time, because it is so common and people feel so alone, and maybe they don't want to talk about it because they might feel like something has gone wrong with them. And that's not true. The environment, the structure of what we are seeing out there is unlike, I think, anything anyone has seen in recent memory. So it's not them. This is not a referendum on them. It's not an assessment of them. It's just where they are in the situation. And if they can figure out where they are in the process, where are they not getting the success they hope to get? If they're not getting interviews, it's probably something to do with their resume, probably something to do with their networking strategy. If they're not getting interviews, if the resume is getting them to the point of getting interviews, they're doing great. Now they need to hone that interview skill and figure out how they're going to show up as professional and thoughtful and knowledgeable so that the future hiring team simply cannot ignore them.
If I can say something to that, personal story is back in 29, when I was in the market of applying everywhere, I knew the pain of, man, what am I not doing, you know? And I want to echo what you said. It is what it is in the moment, but that's not the end of your story. You know, you got to double down on what you truly believe. If you believe that you are well capable of showing up to work and doing what you got to do and making your bosses happy and being accountable and being able to bear the weight of responsibility, then you can't let today define your blank pages, because you still got that one to write. And who would have thought that I'd be talking to people like you? You know, like that's what I mean. Like, distrust the process. I know that I don't want to be sensitive about it and not tell people, you know, I don't understand what you're going through, because I truly don't. I'm not in your shoes. But I've been there in 29, and I know the feeling of, man, it's just like a brick wall. I'm not getting the interviews, or I got an interview. I got 2 interviews, but I didn't get a response back, or sorry, loved you, but just not quite the fit we're looking for. I heard it all. So if I can encourage someone to piggyback on what you just said, is trust the process. It's not game over. It's just construction mode, and sometimes it's painful, but if you just keep showing up, you know, eventually you'll meet the right people or the right opportunity, and the rest is history.
Well, I appreciate your optimism on that, and I hope that your listeners will take that as an object lesson, because there is so much opportunity out there for good people doing good work. And if you're struggling, there are resources like me. There's also job clubs out there. There are really good resources in the libraries and the bookstores written by people who really know what they're talking about. And the answer is going to be there someplace. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay. I mean, we ask for, I promise you, like, we don't cut our own hair. We go to the dentist. We, whatever it is, we ask for help all the time. And it's not a character assessment. It's just where you are at this moment, and good things are to come.
That's a good conversation in the work week and heading to the weekend. Like I always want to say to our guest, Amy, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.